What's up, guys? Hey, welcome to the MMA channel, and I appreciate you guys. I thank you so much for subscribing. We've got a lot of new subscribers. I'm trying to get this thing monetized. So I want to talk a little bit about Layla and Machado, Garry, something. This is the gift that keeps on giving. She is an unintentional genius, but not in the way she thinks she is. And also, I'm going to talk about UFC on ESPN 53. Rose Namajunas is the headliner, and I'm such a big Rose fan, but her back is up against it right now. All right, so let's get into this.
You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy.
So one of my favorite fighters, Rose Namajunas, fights this weekend. This is a former champion. This is one of the baddest girls to ever set foot in the octagon. She has 2 wins over Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and I'm not talking about the later on Joanna. I'm talking about the scary one that looked at people weird and just destroyed girls. That's the one she beat twice. And then Wei Li, this absolute beast from China who's so strong and so talented, she beat her twice as well. She's tough. She moved up to 125 pounds and lost her last fight. Well, she also lost the one right before that to Carla Esparza, but that was one of the weirdest fights I've ever seen. And that was one of those nights when Rose mentally just wasn't there, and I don't know why, and I don't know what was going on with her, but when she's on, she beats anyone in the world. She fought Manon Fiorot, I hope that's how you say her name, and Manon's just big, strong, and kind of handled her at 125. I think it was eye-opening to see how much bigger this girl was at 125. It was the first time Rose fought at Flyweight. She has decided to stay at Flyweight, but it is super important that she beats Amanda Ribas. Ribas is really good. She's one of those top 5 kind of gatekeeper type girls. She's about 2 fights from getting, if she were to win this one and then win another one, I see her possibly getting a title shot. Rose, she can win this one and go right into a title shot if Erin Blanchford beats Fiorot in their upcoming matchup. But either way, I hope somebody starts fighting for the title a little bit more in this 125-pound division. It has been relatively inactive for the last 2 years. This Grasso-Shevchenko trilogy is a nightmare. I get it, it's the fight to make, but can you make it a little bit faster than this? Another fighter I'm watching on this card is Edmen Shahbazyan. Edmen Shahbazyan is fighting for his career. This guy was a prospect. He was smoking dudes and looking really good, and then he caught kind of a skid. He's lost 4 out of his last 5 fights, and if he doesn't win here, this might be it for his UFC career. He might be going over to PFL or who knows. He's had some vicious knockouts, and he trains with Sean Strickland, so maybe that helps him, maybe it hurts him, maybe that's where he's getting some of the damage. I don't know. He's fighting AJ Dobson. AJ Dobson's good, but he's 2-2 in his last 4 in the UFC. It looks like they're both fighting to stay in the UFC. I would be willing to bet loser is out. As I scroll through the card, another name I spotted, Cody Gibson. This is his first fight back after that amazing fight with Brad Katona at the end of the Ultimate Fighter series. They were absolute beasts. I'm so glad the UFC brought him in after that. He deserved it after that fight. And he was fighting at 145. He's actually a 135er. So I want to see Cody Gibson get in there and make his run. He's getting a little older. He had a run before in the UFC, then he was cut. Now he's fought his way back in. I want to see what Cody Gibson can do. So that'll be a fun one. All right, guys. Now to the stuff we're all looking for. Layla Ann Lee. Oh my goodness, this lady she thinks she knows media, and she accidentally does. She has made Ian Garry one of the most recognizable faces, but for all the wrong reasons. She has come back and she thinks she's really sticking it to people with this video.
We do this. The top 3 lies you believed about Ian Machado Garry. There are obviously many, many more. I'd argue over 99% of what you read is a lie.
She's coming out and telling the top 3 lies that people tell about Ian Machado Garry.
The crowd at UFC 298 press conference were loud. The boos were undeniable as Ian took to the stage, and a bloke behind me shouted, "Can I f*** your wife?" He had no idea I was there until I turned around and glared at him, to which he just disintegrated into a wet puddle of apologies.
I don't know that I believe this. I'd like to see this. I don't see this happening, and I don't see him fumbling into a wet puddle of apologies. But people do that sometimes. Yeah, I mean, it is funny how on the internet people talk about you, and then when they see you in person, changes everything. So possibly true, I don't know if I believe it.
When former middleweight title holder and current multiple world bullshit title holder Sean Strickland read a clickbait headline but didn't bother to fact check or read the whole article. Unsurprising, gullible behavior, but why would we expect anything else? Why would we expect anyone to fact check? We're in an age of headline-only, attention-deficit consumers looking really to validate only preconceived ideas online. Bad journalism, bad people, and lazy consumerism.
And I love how she pretends like, oh, it's everyone else's fault that nobody actually looked into this story. What are you talking about? You're the one that created this with this headline news by putting Jeff Neal's mugshot out there and attacking Neil Magny and his parenting skills. These are things you, as Layla Ann, as the media manager, obviously put into Ian Garry's head because he listens to what she says. He thinks she knows what she's doing.
Bad journalism, bad people, and lazy consumerism are a perfect recipe for misinformation to explode and an unwarranted amount of hate to land on the shoulders of UFC's brightest prospect.
She's blaming everybody but herself. She's blaming bad journalism, lazy people, bad consumerism. Like, what else is it? Is it global warming? What else are you going to blame here? It's you and the way you put out the message that caused these issues.
Lie number one. Ian took his wife's ex-husband's surname. I can't believe anyone would accept this to be true, but the MMA community picked it up and ran a full marathon with it. In fact, some people are still running with it now, gripping on with sweaty, trembling fingers in order to justify blatant trolling.
So she clarifies that Machado is not her former husband's name. But then, why would Garry take it? You gotta think about that. They think they're so clever in grabbing the Brazilian market by let's add Machado so then we can have England and Brazil behind our guy. Do they think we're that gullible? Apparently they do. It's silly. And then I heard somebody say it was because they wanted their family to have the same names. Well, that's not true. If the son is from the other guy, I would imagine his name's not Machado.
Lie number two. His wife's ex lives with them. There's a pattern here. A lot of the lies are about his wife. I'm so glad she's finally clearing it up. No, he doesn't. He never has done. I find that a bit weird. I wouldn't want to. No. This lie was born out of the mouth of an MMA YouTuber desperate for clicks. When you make a channel entirely dedicated to your opinion on others, you have to somewhat admit that your own talent isn't enough. You haven't got enough to entertain. You have to talk about other people in order to stay relevant. You're riding off the coattails of other people's hard work.
Oh, poor Layla Ann. All the lies are about his wife. Well, maybe because you put this stuff out there in such a weird way and you're not very good. She thinks she's this media mastermind. She's not. She's not very good. And she doesn't know how to handle it. All of her success that she's brought Ian Garry is on accident, and that's why he became the heel. He didn't become, if her plan played out the way she wanted it to, he would be a good guy. Everybody would love him, and he would be this popular, but everyone would love him. Well, she did it. She succeeded in one half of that, but they don't love him.
This isn't fighting commentary. This is just self-indulgent numerical masturbation. When researching all the bullshit online, it was very clear to me why people are making so much of this content. You see, the numbers spike sharply anytime anyone's talking about Ian and his family.
Now she talks about MMA YouTubers making their opinions on others. Well, that's what media in general does. She's a part of media. Are you saying this about yourself, that you have no skills and that you're not only riding the media train, you married some young kid to latch onto it? So whatever she's saying to us, it's 10 times worse with her. Oh my gosh. And the way, I don't think she could be more smug. Does she think she's really sticking it to us in this really smug way, riding off of other people's talent? That's exactly what she's doing, riding off Ian Garry's talent. She's an older woman, didn't make it as far as she wanted to in media. So what does she do? She nabs herself a prospect. Yeah, she did. And hey, good for her. I'm not hating on it, but stop hating on everybody else and
So much so that Kevin Holland's page looked like a full shrine to Ian Garry for a complete 3 weeks, as he just kept regurgitating this Ian Garry content. You see, if you have no morals, no creativity, and you need to hit the numbers online, then the numbers are often worth the lie.
She makes it like Ian Garry is this hot prospect, and the reason everyone's talking about him is because he's so good and they're riding coattails. No, it's because you've done so much dumb stuff and there's so much out there that it's so easy and funny that, yeah, we all latch onto it. And we cannot believe the ignorance by Mrs. Garry Machado there. It's ridiculous.
Lie number 3. Ian is a cuck. Step back up, Sean Strickland, a man who's unlikely to be au fait with the Shakespearean English he unwittingly used when calling Ian a cuck. First penned in the story of Othello, the word cuckold refers to the fear of a man who's been betrayed by his wife. Sean Strickland has been talking an awful lot about Ian Garry's wife. I've been called a sexual predator, a paedophile, an abuser, all by the man who alleges he suffered that exact abuse as a child growing up. In the Shakespearean classic, Iago tells Othello about Desmonda's adultery and he blindly believes the rumours. It's serendipity and not merely coincidental that Iago was lying. There was no truth to the story at all. Othello, like the crowd at UFC 298, was cruelly misled by Iago's jealousy and insecurities. Othello was never the cuckold he was called. His wife was never an adulteress. And notably, when the lies were exposed, Iago was taken away to be tortured and killed.
And then she talks about the cuck. Oh boy, this is ridiculous. He kind of is a cuck. He took her name. I don't know, and whether it be a cuck or just a man who's given into an older woman, whatever you want to call it. It's the way she gives this explanation of the word, as if we're too dumb to understand what a cuck is in modern day society. It doesn't mean the same thing as it did in Shakespeare, you idiot. Words change with time. Words change based on what people understand of the word. And we don't understand the word. And thank you for quoting Shakespeare, you jackass.
In the Shakespearean classic, Iago tells Othello about Desmonda's adultery and he blindly believes the rumours. It's serendipity and not merely coincidental that Iago was lying. There was no truth.
But yeah, once again, as soon as the fire was about out on Ian Garry and people were kind of coming around to him, we hadn't heard from her in a while. Wow, she just dumped propane onto a small spark and there's a bomb. And now she's the butt of everyone's jokes again. She just makes it worse. She doesn't understand. If she truly, maybe she wants this, I don't know. Maybe she likes it, but I feel like she's smug and she thinks she's gonna put it to the dumb MMA or the dumb consumers.
Sexual predator, a paedophile, an abuser, all by the man who alleges he suffered that exact abuse as a child growing up.
Sean accused her of being a pedo and abusing. And then she says, well, this is a man who was abused. Well, that would be someone who probably recognizes the traits that people use to manipulate to get people in that situation. And maybe he sees some of those situations and maybe it bothers him. So good on Sean Strickland for speaking up, and whether it be abuse or not, at least he recognized it and put it out there. With all that said, Ian Garry is a badass fighter. I want to see him against Colby Covington. And I think he's probably going to beat Colby Covington. Colby's looked awful in his last fight. And that's the one I want to see next. I don't want to see him against MVP yet. I think MVP will piece him up. But I don't know, either one. If he's as good as they say he is, let him go against anyone. So MVP or Colby, either one of those fights, but I want to see it pretty soon. I'm tired of waiting on these big fights. The UFC, what made it great was these fights came a lot more often. It doesn't seem to be that way anymore. So anyway, let's get at it. And remember guys, subscribe. I love this channel. I'm trying to grow this one, get it monetized and go from there. Thanks guys, later.